In the past days, Sayadaw is speaking about about the rule in Vipassana to note, to observe at the very moment of arising. And when we do, we'll come to know sabhava, that is the true nature of rupa and nama, their substance, their quality, their individual true nature. Sayadaw has spoken about this before, but he said it again. And if we observe at the very moment of arising, we will come to know the individual true nature of mental and physical phenomena. And we will dispel the darkness of Dhamma samoha, that is delusion, intense delusion regarding the Dhamma. And the light of Dhamma Vipassana, the light of the knowledge which sees clearly, this is rupa, physical, this is nama, mental. Physicality has this nature, it's hard or soft, coarse, fine, or it has the nature of being warm or hot or cold, or it has the nature of being solid or flowing, coherent, connected, or the nature of being stiff, tense, vibrating, and so on. One observes the individual qualities of rupa, and one also sees the nature of nama, the mental phenomena. One sees clearly that mental phenomena is one thing, and rupa, physical phenomena, is another. This is called Dhamma Vipassana, and this is the first light of the Sasana. This light of the teachings, the light of the Sasana, is based upon the knowledge of karma as our own property. Good actions bring good results. Bad actions bring bad results. The good and the bad deeds that a person does are what create our lives. And based on this understanding, one comes to practice satipatthana, and through applying the practice, respectfully, the first light of sasana arises. Due to this understanding of nama and rupa, the belief in a person or a soul is eliminated. Of course, not completely, but that we don't, we know that belief is false. It's not eliminated completely until we realize Sotapatti, path and fruition. From there, from understanding nama and rupa, seeing them clearly, one continues to practice, and one comes to see how these mental and physical phenomena are related as cause and effect. Due to kama, rupa, physicality arises. Due to the mind, citta, physicality or rupa arises. Due to the mind, nama arises. Due to physicality, mentality arises. Due to physicality, physicality arises. So there are various ways that nama and rupa are related. We come to see that whatever occurs in us has a cause. It doesn't occur without a cause. It has a cause, and each thing has its own respective cause. The cause and the result match each other exactly. So seeing this is called Paccaya Vipassana Jnana. Seeing cause and effect clearly, we know this is the cause, this is the effect. When we don't observe, either we don't observe at all or we don't observe completely, our observing power is not fulfilled, then the darkness of confusion about cause and effect, paccaya samoha, occurs. So not seeing that things are related as cause and effect, there's not knowing of this relationship, and one may think that things happen without a cause. This is the wrong view of causelessness, ahetuka detti. Or one might understand that there's a cause and believe this, but not knowing the true cause. Through observation, one thinks that things happen due to an unreal cause, such as a creator. This is called visamahetuka detti, or the belief in a fictitious cause. And some people think, too, that only karma is the cause for what we experience. So all these beliefs are based on ignorance, and they all are part of this intense delusion regarding cause and effect, paccaya samoha. If we don't observe, we won't know, we'll know in the wrong way. And due to knowing in the wrong way, we'll also believe something wrong. We'll believe in the wrong way. Our belief will be in error. And then there will be the darkness of paccaya samoha, darkness of delusion regarding cause and effect. Those who practice and come to see clearly, this is nama, that is rupa, and then continue to practice, when they see clearly the cause-effect relationships, this is called paccaya vipassana jnana, the knowledge which sees clearly cause and effect. If this knowledge arises, then one is free of doubt regarding how things arise. One sees that things we experience arise due to causes. This is true now, and in the future this will always be the same. This will also be so, that things arise due to causes. Although one only comes to fully believe this at the stage of Sotapatti Magga, one still understands this clearly. And thus the second light of Sasana has arisen. This light, too, is based on the right view of karma as our own property. So this understanding, karma sakata samadeti, is very important because it's a junction for our path, the path of kusala, to develop. So yogis who observe whatever object arises with aiming and effort, respecting the practice, in 1 week they can reach this understanding. And if one hasn't yet seen this, and one has been here more than 1 week, one should examine oneself. Am I obedient? Do I listen to the instructions of the teachers and apply them? Or do I do something other than what they tell me? Or do I work without respect for the practice, without trying to gain continuity, without aiming for that, without being steadfast? Am I taking breaks in the practice? So the yogis who have come here to practice should at least reach this understanding of cause and effect, paccaya vipassana jnana. Then you will have gained the second light of Sasana, and this is something to be happy about. How the mind causes physicality. When one observes with care, one can see this in a special way. Sometimes the mind is happy. Sometimes the mind feels uneasy and sorrowful. When we encounter a good object, then there's a happy feeling and we smile. And when we encounter a bad object, something that we don't like, something that's cause for sadness to arise, then it's quite clear that the physicality that arises is quite clear. When there's an object that's cause for happiness, then the mind feels fresh and elated. When the object is something that is cause for sadness, the mind no longer feels fresh. It doesn't feel fresh. And of course, before coming here, one's encountered this type of thing. One encounters objects one likes and objects one dislikes. At the time one encounters an object that one likes, the mind is happy and peaceful. And encountering an object the mind doesn't like, the mind is unhappy. And so we feel these unhappy and happy feelings. And due to this feeling, then a certain physicality occurs. We see how the physicality changes. When the mind is happy, and there's a happy experience of the feeling, then the physicality is one way. When the mind is full of sorrow, there's another type of physicality. So one sees there's nama and rupa, rupa and nama. One sees how the mind brings about a feeling, and one knows this. So one knows how the mind creates the feeling, and every moment one observes, one knows in this way. This is paccayyavatthana jnana, the discernment of cause and effect. At that time, yogis who are noting carefully, when the mind is happy, they see that the physicality is elated and happy also. And this comes to an end. And before the physicality associated with an unhappy mind arises, there's the unhappy mind followed by the unhappy physicality. So each occurs in its own time. One comes to see this. So what Sayadaw just mentioned is how when the mind is in an unusual state, due to the changes in the mind, there are changes in physicality. So this is when the mind is in somewhat of a special condition. But in ordinary times too, it can be seen that the mind causes physicality to occur. For example, when we sit down or stand up, bend or stretch, the intention, the mind that is called intention to sit down, intention to stand up, intention to bend, intention to stretch, and so on. Following each one of these intentions, the respective movement occurs. Following the intention to sit, there's the sitting down. Following the intention to stand up, there's the standing up. So the mind causes the physicality in a very exact way. The intention to perform a certain action results in that action. So one sees that the mind and the physical action are occurring as cause and effect. Due to the intention to bend, bending occurs. The physicality involved in bending occurs. Due to the intention to stretch, the physical action of stretching occurs. And likewise for any other action, sitting up, sitting down, standing up, opening, closing the eyes, blinking. In whatever one does, one sees that cause is one thing and the effect is another. This is how mind causes physicality in brief. When one notes, one comes to know far more than this. What one knows in the practice is far greater than this small example. As Sayadaw said, note, observe at the very moment of arising, only then will one see Sabhava for sure. So at the very moment of rising, falling, lifting, moving, placing, bending, stretching, opening and closing the eyes, whatever action it is, with virya, sati and samadhi, we observe steadfastly. And when the samadhi is strong, then one comes to see clearly the causal qualities and the resultant qualities. So what he has said just now about how mentality causes physicality is just a summary of all the things that can occur. What he wants to speak about today is something he's spoken about before, how rupa causes nama in terms of the base element, the striker and the spark. And earlier, Sayadaw spoke about how these three elements occur in the moment of seeing, how rupa causes nama. And now he would like to speak about how in the moment of hearing, the base, the striker, and the spark are evident. Whatever sound we hear, whether it's an environmental sound like the wind, or whether it's human speech, the sound reaches the ear, so the ear base. And at that moment, there's hearing consciousness, contact and feeling, which are the spark. All these combined make up hearing. We call it hearing. So in this, if we examine the elements that are combined in the moment of hearing, there's the receptor element or the base, which is the ear, and the striker element, which is the sound, and the ignition element or the spark. This is the hearing consciousness, that is the mind which knows the sound. And then there's contact and feeling. And this is what occurs in essence in a moment of hearing. If we were to go into all the details of what is present at the moment of hearing, it would be very elaborate. But this is what the Buddha spoke about. This is how the Buddha spoke about the hearing process in this simple way in the suttas. And this, when we know this much, this is enough for our practice. The word which is translated into element in English, dhatu in Pali, means something that bears its own nature. That means it has its own individual nature. So the nature of the ear is that it receives sound. It makes sound apparent. That's its individual nature. And the nature of sound is that it strikes the ear. It's what is heard. So it too is an element. It too is called dhatu. It has its own individual nature. And the ignition, the components in the ignition element, hearing consciousness, which knows the sound. It has the nature to know sound. And contact, it also it's a quality of touch, and then feeling. So these each have their own nature. In hearing, among all these elements that combine in the moment of hearing, there's no woman, no man, no person, no soul. There are just elements coming together. Their true nature, or they call dhatu, or elements. They have their own individual natures. And in essence, there's just these three, the base, the striker, and the spark. These components are very evident. The ear receives the sound. It makes the sound apparent. And if one continues to observe when one's virya, sati, and samadhi are good and strong, one will sometimes be aware of the ear receiving the sound. Sometimes one will observe that the ear serves to connect the mind with the sound that is striking the ear. And sometimes one is aware of this is the place where hearing occurs. One is aware of the ear's function as a base for hearing. These are the ways that one knows the ear in the moment of hearing. Sometimes when we know hearing, we are aware of how the sound strikes the ear. We're aware that the sound is that which is heard, or the mind is observing that sound. This is knowing the striker. And sometimes what we're aware of is that hearing arises based on the ear. Hearing is what knows the sound. Hearing grazes on the sound, so to speak. Hearing is the field for the sound to arise. Sometimes one will know that the mind and the object are contacting each other. Or one will know that the mind, the object, the mind which is hearing consciousness, the object which is the sound, and the base which is the ear are all connected. This is knowing the quality of phassa, or contact. Sometimes we'll be aware of the feeling it's good to hear, or a feeling it's bad to hear. So when the bhavana mind observes at the moment of hearing, it contacts one of these things. One of these things will be obvious in the moment of hearing. And knowing that, it will automatically know the parts of the hearing process that are also not obvious. The mind can't know all parts at once. Sometimes what the mind is aware of in hearing is the base element, the ear, the receptor. Sometimes the mind is aware of the striker, the sound. Sometimes the mind is aware of the spark, the mental components, any one of the hearing consciousness, or contact, or feeling. This is seeing rupa and nama clearly. And this is the first light of Sasana. When one continues to observe and one knows, because of the ear, hearing arises. This is seeing how the ear causes hearing to come about. Sometimes one knows because of sound, hearing arises. So in both of these cases, physicality is causing mentality. The ear causes hearing to arise, or one sees that the sound causes hearing to arise. This is evident to a yogi who works respectfully without reflecting or thinking about things. At the moment of hearing, this is how paccaya-vivattanā-ñāna, the clear discernment of cause and effect, which is the second light of Sasana, occurs. With the first light of Sasana, the darkness of intense delusion regarding the Dhamma, Nama and Rupa is dispelled. And with the second light of Sasana, confusion regarding cause and effect is dispelled, and the knowledge of cause and effect arises. Just as one can know the base, the striker, and the spark, Rupa and Nama, and how they are related by cause and effect in the moment of hearing, if one observes with respect and care. So too, in the moment of smelling, there is a base which is the nose, and there are odors which are the striker element, either fragrances or foul odors. And then there's, when the odor strikes the nose, then there's smelling consciousness and contact and feeling, good or bad, and sometimes neutral. And similarly with taste, in the moment of tasting, one can come to know the base, which is the tongue. And there are 6 kinds of flavors that are the striker element: sweet, sour, bitter, bland, salty, and hot. And any one of these may come and strike the tongue. And when the striker strikes the base, then there's knowing of the taste, knowing of the sweet taste or the sour taste, bitter taste, and so on. And the contact that occurs between the tasteable object and the mind on the tongue base. And then the feeling, good or bad. When there's a taste that we like, there's a good feeling. When there's a taste that we don't like, there's a bad feeling or unpleasant feeling. So too in the moment of touch. The whole body, everywhere there's moisture, everywhere the blood can go, there's a receptor for tangible elements, the body base. And if one wants to know hardness or softness, one just has to feel a bony area or a fleshy area. To know warmth, hot, and cold, one can feel the areas that are like this. There's also stiffness, tension, vibration. The body is capable of feeling all of these. So the body is the base element for the experience of touch. The striker is the tangible object. And when the striker touches the body base, then there's touch consciousness, knowing the hardness or softness, hot, cold, warmth, and so on, and the contact and feeling. And further, there's thinking, imagining, concepts, and so on. These are objects that strike the bhavanga consciousness, the stream of mind that is called the bhavanga. Or in terms of the abhidhamma, they strike the heart base. And at the time a thought or an image or a concept strikes the heart base or the bhavanga, there's knowing of that thought or image, imagination. There's contact and feeling So each of these experiences arises in their own time. All the different senses arise at the different sense stores. So if according to the rule for Vipassana to note, observe at the very moment of arising, only then will one see sabhava for sure. If one can do as instructed, one will come to see clearly what is rupa, what is nama. One will see clearly the difference between them. And this is the first light of sasana. Continuing to observe, one will come to see how nama causes rupa, how rupa causes nama, and rupa causes rupa, nama causes nama. One will come to see how nama and rupa are related as cause and effect. This is the second light of sasana. Sayadaw urges all the yogis to try to come to this understanding, this level of knowledge. And tomorrow, Sayadaw will speak about how only when sabhava is seen will one see arising and passing away. He will talk about how when one comes to know true nature, the true nature of mental and physical phenomena, and how they are related as cause and effect, when one continues to observe, one will come to see that they're arising and they're passing away. So this is the topic for tomorrow. That's all for today. Sadhu, 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 sadhu.